Hello everyone, this is Group 3 presenting on Xuanzang's route. In 629 CE, a Chinese Buddhist monk named Xuanzang wanted to travel west to India to learn more about Buddhism. After having studied the sutras earnestly and becoming accomplished in religious works, he felt there was much divergence in Buddhist theories, without one authoritative and credible theory, and felt he should go to India to further his study of Buddhism. However, at the time, which was during the early years of the Tang dynasty, most regions of the Silk Road were under the control of the Turks, so the government prohibited people from going to the western regions outside China. Xuanzang respected authority, yet believed that the trip to India was necessary in order to answer questions that troubled Chinese Buddhists. That year, he started a 17-year journey, spending much of it as a fugitive, though also with aid from many leaders, while traveling under the cover of darkness. Xuanzang had to sneak out of China to begin his journey. He had to evade toll gates at Guizhou and use the assistance of a Tatar to continue moving. Once he reached Gaosheng, he had earned the respect of the king of the territory and was given 30 horses and 25 men to assist on the expedition. He faced treacherous conditions the entire time and traveled through the desert and the snowy Pamir Plateau. Xuanzang's route started in Shan, the capital of the Tang region, traveling westward to Lanzhou. Dunhuan was the next destination before traveling north of the Taklamakan Desert, from Hami to Turfa to Kucha and then to Tashkent. Xuanzang then traveled south through Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Ahmedabad was the major city that Xuanzang arrived to in India. He then traveled along the coast of India before traveling along the southern edge of the Himalayas to Delhi. The climate conditions ranged from arid tropical to humid subtropical. There were 4 languages along the trail: Altaic, Indic, Uralic, and Iranian. For the immediate part of his journey, the belief system was Confucianism, Taoism, Buddhism, then Sunni Islam, and finally ending with Hinduism in India. And here's a map of Xuanzang's route highlighted in green along the Silk Road. During his time in India, Xuanzang visited many different towns and cities in which Buddhism was in varying forms of popularity. In locations such as Odiyana and Kashmir, there were thriving monasteries that housed thousands of monks. In other places such as Taxila, temples and monasteries were abandoned and destroyed due to the infighting that was going on between local warlords. In 631, Xuanzang stayed in Kashmir for 2 years, where he studied under several renowned monks, learning different aspects of Buddhism while also teaching. Heading east and then south in 634, Xuanzang journeyed through a variety of small towns and acquired Buddhist texts along the way, until he stopped at the city of Govashan in 636. There was a large monastery where Xuanzang studied early pamphlet. Setting off once more, Xuanzang journeyed east to Ayodhya, which was the origin of the Yogacara school of Buddhism. In 637, Xuanzang reached Nalanda, one of the most prominent schools in India, where he studied for 2 years. Here he researched Sanskrit, an ancient Indian language in which many philosophical and Buddhist texts were written, along with Yogacara. It was here that Xuanzang met Silabhadra, a famous monk who was the head of the university that became Xuanzang's personal mentor. Silabhadra already knew of Xuanzang's arrival, for he had a dream that Xuanzang would come and spread Buddhism far and wide. Years after leaving Nalanda, Xuanzang befriended the Hindu king Bhaskar Varman, and they both attended a massive Buddhist assembly, which monks and kings from all across India attended. Xuanzang left India and arrived back in his homeland of China in 645. Throughout his travels in India, Xuanzang gathered hundreds of texts that he would later translate, while also keeping a detailed record on the events that occurred during his travels. Additionally, he had visited all the sacred sites connected with the life of Buddha. He also wrote about the various Indian cultures that differed from region to region. He built a reputation as a scholar when he was in India, and King Harsha, ruler of North India, met and honored him and his journey. Not much is known about the details of Xuanzang's return travels from India to China. However, there are records that show that the route first led from Kanwaj after a great celebration put on by the local king, through Peshawar, modern Pakistan, by way of the Khyber Pass, today the border between Pakistan and Afghanistan. From there, Xuanzang traveled through the city of Kashgar, China's westernmost city, to pass along the southern route around the Taklamakan Desert to visit Khotan. The journey then led further eastward through Nia, Minfang, and back into the safety of the Great Wall of China. Xuanzang arrived in the capital, Chang'an, on the 7th day of the first month of the year 645 AD. Yet before he could enter China, he had to appeal to the Tang Emperor, Taizong, as he had illegally left the country 16 years before. Xuanzang wrote a letter to the emperor detailing his travels and findings. As a result, he was welcomed back warmly in 645 as he had arrived in Chang'an. Due to his reception, Xuanzang was able to spread the findings of his journey easily, finding a large audience in the Chinese people. He retired to a monastery and spent most of his time translating over 600 Buddhist texts that he had acquired throughout his travels in India and China. These texts brought new pieces of information to Chinese Buddhism, which brought monks from all across China to study with him. Xuanzang primarily focused his studies in the Yogacara field of Buddhism. Upon his death in 664, Xuanzang had translated hundreds of texts and wrote the most detailed account of Asia and the Silk Road, the Great Tang Records on the Western Records. This document preserved the history and cultures of the region and is still studied to this day. Through his translations and teachings, Xuanzang started 4 different schools of Buddhism and is one of the great religious figures within Chinese Buddhism. Thank you, everyone.